So welcome. Today we are going to start with our new topic antiplatelet and thrombolytic drugs. So we also about that the platelets are the very essential for the blood coagulation process. So the platelet get aggregates and forms a clot there. So these platelets are very important in the blood coagulation process. So the drugs which inhibit the platelet aggregation process is known as the antiplatelet drugs. And the drugs which are breaking the thrombus formation or inhibiting the thrombus formation are called as the thrombolytic drugs. So here in this slide you can see the anticoagulants and antiplatelets are two types of antithrombotic drugs. Those are inhibiting the primary prevention and secondary prevention. So this is the diagram shown here, the clot or thrombus or embolus formation, and this drug fibrinolytics inhibit this uh, net formation. This white color net is formation like structure that is formed here is the called as the it is formed by the fibrin. So the drugs which are preventing the formation and breaks this formation of this mesh is called as the fibrinolytic drugs. So the anticoagulants are effective in the prevention and treatment of thrombosis in the venous and arterial systems. So anticoagulants are very much effective in the prevention of thrombosis formation in the veins and the arteries, while antiplatelet drugs are generally only considered for arterial or intracardiac thrombosis. These thrombi are rich in platelets, while thrombi and emboli in the venous system have relatively low platelet content. What does this mean? This means the platelets clot which are formed in the cardiac region or artery region in the our circulation, these are rich in platelets, means higher content of platelet is there. So these antiplatelet drugs are generally only considered whenever there is a serious related thrombosis problems. So these antiplatelet drugs are generally considered for serious related attacks like heart attack related condition. We have to use the antiplatelet drug. Then uh, thrombolytic and fibrinolytic drugs, these are these are having direct action to dissolve existing thrombus and are used for acute treatment of thrombosis, namely the treatment of acute myocardial infarction, acute ischemic stroke, and massive PE. Okay, so this is nothing but the short form of the stroke and the injury which is occur in the heart. So we can say acute myocardial infarction is nothing but the heart attack, which is a short notice heart attack. This is called as the acute myocardial infarction. Acute ischemic stroke. So acute ischemic stroke means due to short short duration ischemic attack. So this is called as the acute ischemic stroke. So thrombolytic and fibrinolytic drugs are used in this way. So let us see the role of platelets, how the role platelets playing role in the coagulation process. Consider this is the vessel wall, this is the collagen, and these are the cells here. So this part is enlarged here. You can see the blood clot box. It is enlarged in the here, and these are GPLB and one Willebrand factor. These are the various factors of coagulation related factors. So first step is the adhesion. Adhesion means the binding of these cells to the walls where the injury takes place or took place. So these are the different factors which are involved in the coagulation process like collagen, thrombin, then ADP, adenosine diphosphate, then thromboxane A2. All these are the factors present in this related area or surrounding area. So the second step is in the activation. This get activated here, and this activated get bind to this the receptors present on their on the surface of the platelets. So they get aggregate and they start the platelet aggregation there. So the shape of this platelet gets changed, and this is now become a activated platelet in the phase 2, and later in the phase 3 this get aggregation. Aggregation means they form the fibrin structure there, mesh like structure there, and this will going to forms the mesh like structure and the network which will blocks the blood flow and bleeding from that injury site or injured vessel. So this is the process of platelet coagulation, platelet aggregation at the site of injury. So the next is the platelet antiplatelet drugs. Let us see the classification of antiplatelet drugs. The antiplatelet drugs are classified as the first is the acetyl salicylic acid, a well-known aspirin. It is we have discussed the aspirin is one of the antiplatelet drug easily available and can be taken for the patients who are having the serious related problems of blood coagulation related disorder. So used widely in patients at risk of thromboembolic disease. Then P2Y12 antagonist. This is one of the receptor here you can see, and on that receptor antagonist will act, which will be acting as the antiplatelet drugs. So these are beneficial in the treatment and prevention of ACS and the prevention of thromboembolic events. Then the dipyridamole, the secondary prevention in patients following stroke and often in combination with aspirin. This dipyridamole can be used in combination with the aspirin. And the next one is the GP2B or 3A antagonist. This is also one of the receptor which is present on the platelet, and these antagonists will be acting as antiplatelet drugs. So they are administered intravenously and are effective during percutaneous coronary intervention. So PCI is the percutaneous intervention here. So this is the classification of antiplatelet drugs. Let us see one by one. The mechanism of acetyl salicylic acid, that is also known as the aspirin. So let us see here. This is the diagram, and aspirin is one of the inhibiting factor of the thromboxane A2. So the thromboxane receptor is present on the surface of this platelet, and thromboxane A2, the red uh, dot is here. This is called as the thromboxane A2. This acetyl salicylic acid will inhibit the thromboxane A2 formation, the complex formation that inhibits the platelet activation and aggregation. So in the previous slide, on the previous slide, we also saw about the process of where clot formation of platelet aggregation. So in this process, there is activation and aggregation of platelet take place. This occurs due to the activation of this or due to this thromboxane A2 which binds on this receptor, surface receptor. So aspirin inhibits this thromboxane A2 binding to this receptor and will inhibit the activation of platelets and aggregation of platelet. So we will get the antiplatelet effect. Why we need the antiplatelet effect? Because whenever there is a formation of emboli or the formation of thrombus, there is a problem in the blood circulation. Blood will not flow to the particular organ, and the oxygen supply will not go to that organ, and without oxygen supply our body will get ischemia, and that organ will not work properly, and you will get certain problem. Like for example, consider when there is a blockage in the coronary vessels, coronary arteries, you will get the heart attack due to the uh, decrease in the blood supply to the heart myocardium or oxygen supply to the heart myocardium. So we have to use this acetyl salicylic acid to prevent this myocardial infarctions. Okay, so this is the mechanism of action of this aspirin. So this inhibited by the aspirin. So let us see the pharmacokinetics of this aspirin. The rapid absorption of aspirin occurs in the stomach and upper intestine, with the peak plasma concentration being achieved 15 to 20 minutes after the administration. The peak inhibitory effect of platelet aggregation is apparent approximately 1 hour post administration, and aspirin produces the irreversible inhibition of the enzyme cyclooxygenase and therefore causes irreversible inhibition of platelets for the rest of their lifespan, 7 days. Means once we have taken the aspirin, it will be the action, that is will be the irreversible aggregation. Means once the platelet get uh, the cyclooxygenase inhibition takes place, and due to this the platelet will not get aggregate, and these platelets in their lifespan of 7 days will not get again activated or aggregated. So you will get a 7 days relief of by the use of this aspirin drug. Then where we can use the acetyl salicylic acid or aspirin, it is used in the secondary prevention of transient ischemic attack, ischemic stroke and myocardial infarction. Then prevention of ischemic attack events in patients with angina pectoris, prevention of coronary artery bypass graft and occlusion. So by that way we have discussed the uses of this acetyl salicylic acid here, aspirin here. So you have to keep it in mind the major uses in the myocardial infarction prevention, secondary prevention of myocardial infarction. This is very much important, and another is the prevention of coronary artery bypass graft occlusion. Means whenever there is a we can say the bypass surgery takes place. So bypass surgery is nothing but the blockage is bypassed by the other vessel, and this other vessel, there are chances again this other vessel which is get bypassed will get again occluded. So we have to prevent this occlusion again. So in this way acetyl salicylic acid can be used in the prevention of coronary artery bypass graft occlusion. Some are the major drawbacks or some are the adverse effects of this acetyl salicylic. There is a risk of gastrointestinal adverse events with the use of aspirin, that may be ulceration and bleeding, and allergic reactions to some persons could occur due to the aspirin use. It is not a very effective antithrombotic drug, but is widely used because its ease of use. So I am telling you about that aspirin is not much effective in the antiplatelet or antithrombotic drug, but widely used due to its easily availability and easily usability. Means you can take a tablet of aspirin easily without your doctor's consultation, or if you have get it from the doctor's prescription, keep the aspirin bottle with you. Whenever you are feeling any chest related difficulty or problems, you can use it, take a tablet, and you will get the relief from that problem. So lack of response in some patients, that is called as aspirin resistance, can develop. The irreversible platelet inhibition is one of the major drawback, because sometimes all the platelets get irreversibly blocked. Then the next is the ADP receptor antagonist mechanism of action. Here you can see the ticlopidine and clopidogrel. Ticlopidine and clopidogrel block the ADP binding to the ADP receptor present on the surface of this platelet. So this is the again another antagonist that are used as an antiplatelet drug. So this ADP will not get bind to this surface receptor, and you will get the antiplatelet effect. So the pharmacokinetics are both currently available. ADP receptor antagonists are thienopyridines, that can be administered orally, and absorption approximately 80 to 90% is there. Then these are the prodrugs which may be get activated in the liver. So thienopyrene is not an active drug, but this is the prodrug. When this get inside our body, the liver metabolizes it and gives the active metabolite that will show the antiplatelet action. Then secondary prevention, it can be used in the secondary prevention of myocardial infarction, ischemic stroke, and peripheral arterial diseases. Okay, so these are the major uses of ADP receptor antagonist, ticlopidine. Then some are the drawbacks here. You can see the clopidogrel is only slightly more effective than aspirin. Means there is no much difference between the aspirin and the clopidogrel. So aspirin is easily available. So as with the aspirin, clopidogrel binds irreversibly to the platelets, and in some patients there is resistance to the clopidogrel treatment. This is also irreversible binding, so it is as similar as the aspirin. The next is the dipyridamole. We have to see this is the adenosine receptor. So dipyridamole will inhibit the binding of adenosine. Then incompletely absorbed. Let us see the pharmacokinetics here. This get dipyridamole get mole get incompletely absorbed from the GI tract, and peak plasma concentration occur about 75 minutes after oral administration. Means onset of action is very late, 1 over 15 minutes. More than 90% is bound to plasma protein. So half life is 10 to 12 hours. Metabolized in liver, excreted in the glucuronide formation through the bile and in the urine. Then use is again same, ischemic complication after transient ischemic attack, ischemic stroke in combination with aspirin. Secondary prevention. It is not a very effective antithrombotic drug. This is limitation of this dipyridamole. Then GP2B, 3B, 3A receptor antagonist. So these receptors are again present on the surface, as we have earlier saw in the process of coagulation of platelet aggregation. So this is antagonist mean prevents this formation of this the fibrinogen thread there, and this will be very effective one. So this diagrammatic representation is showing here how the antagonist is working there. So by this way they are inhibiting the formation of fibrin. So the pharmacokinetic is here again available only for intravenous administration. It is very not available in the oral formation. Rapidly absorbed. Prevention of ischemic cardiac complications in patients with acute coronary syndrome. So this is good one, percutaneous coronary interventions, where we can use this receptor antagonist. There are certain drawbacks again. It can only be administered by intravenous injection or infusion and are complicated to manufacture. So the next is the thrombolytic drugs. So these thrombolytic drugs prevent the formation of this fibrin. Earlier I have told you about that. And so thrombolytic drugs will inhibit breaks this plasmin fibrin thread and will not allow the formation of the clot there, and will give the thrombolytic effect. So the pharmacokinetics of thrombolytic drugs is the plasma half-life of third generation drug is 14 to 45 minutes, allowing administration as a single or double intravenous bolus. This is in contrast to the second generation PPA, which with the half-life of 3 to 4 minutes must be administered in an initial bolus followed by infusion. This is used in the thrombolysis process in the patient with acute myocardial infarction, primarily used. Then thrombolysis in patients with the ischemic stroke, in the thrombolysis of acute peripheral arterial thrombosis and others. These are some major drawbacks. You note it down. Treatment is limited to acute in hospital treatment. There is a high risk of bleeding inherent in the treatment. So this is the end of our today's session. Hope you have understand all these topics.